Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today we have a movie to discuss, fresh one just out of theaters. It is the new Sonic movie, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And this sounds weird, but I kinda like this one. If I sound a little uncertain about that, or I sound weird in general, it's because I'm not really sure how to classify how I like this. So, I'm gonna do my best to explain here. But first, now that you know what I'm talking about today, time for a basic synopsis. Or more specifically, basic brief overview. So, this is the sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog, a movie that came out in 2020, 2 years ago, during the height of COVID. Yay. Not the height of COVID, but, whatever. Still, I kind of hated that movie. Look, I just think it had the same problem all video game movies do. The previous Sonic movie had the same problem all the video game movies have for me, and so they don't commit. Loaded statement, backtracking to explain. So, a video game movie is supposed to be an adaptation of a video game, obviously. But a lot of movie directors and writers and maybe producers, whoever's in charge, often doesn't seem to like what they're adapting, or they feel like it needs fixing. So you'll see things where they'll be like, oh, that's too dumb, we gotta make it more realistic and gritty, and it's like, An example of this in recent movies, even some of the ones I kind of liked, is something like the Monster Hunter movie, where it's like, well, we can't just have, some monster hunters going on an adventure in this weird fantasy world. We gotta have some gritty military badass get dropped into the middle of this savage monster world. Yeah, it'll be so awesome. And it's like, you guys are kind of missing the point, what people like out of the franchise. We like that it's weird and interesting and unique. It's why people want to buy a movie about it. It's always confused me. And you saw this a lot in the old Ua Bowl days with movies, where they just make a quick cash grab of a movie that would have basically nothing to do with the source material. The only franchise that has really escaped this curse has been Pokemon, in my opinion. Pokemon has both good animated movies, and now it has one of the only good live-action adaptations. But that's partially because Pokemon is now more of a multimedia brand than just games. It started out as games, but a lot of the staples about what we consider to be true Pokemon is more like the anime and the animated movies, which have a basis in film, so it's easier to adapt. I mean, don't get me wrong, animated properties also have a shitty time getting adapted, because they oftentimes also have people wanting to suck the joy and wonder out of them. But it's always weird to me when that happens. You take this property that's known for being weird, and you try and tone it down. Now, don't get me wrong, the Sonic movie was still a little weird, but it was very grounded. They had to shove a human, another main human character in there, because we can't just have Sonic as your main character. We gotta have this, random guy, his name's Tom, he's a police guy. That'll be fine, right? People can relate to him instead of the Blue Hedgehog. It's like, you do realize this franchise about a Blue Hedgehog has sold millions of dollars worth of merchandise. He's popular enough for a movie. Why do you not trust that to carry a movie? It's always been the thing that frustrates me with video game movies. And adaptations of most things in general. People will buy the rights to a big producing company or a writer or director will get the rights to this franchise that millions of people like and have paid lots of money to enjoy in other forms. And they'll be like, that's goofy or weird or I don't really like it. Let's modify it. It's like, dude, I get that you want to put your own unique spin on it when you're adapting something, but you often feel like you're embarrassed that you are a video game movie. Now, moving on from context, to summarize the whole point of this, I say all of this because this is everything Sonic 2 is essentially not. Yeah, you heard me right. Someone finally decided, hey, what if we just, adapted a Sonic game? This honestly feels like someone tried to just adapt a game from, the Sega Genesis era Sonic 2D, 2 and Knuckles kind of game. It almost feels like a weird adaptation of Sonic 2 and Knuckles. the original games in its own strange way, which I gotta respect. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of this movie, honestly, as a movie. If I'm looking at it objectively as just a normal movie, removing the fact that it's an adaptation of something, I think it's an alright kids movie with some enjoyable action scenes, some creative set pieces, some occasionally funny dialogue that is just average. It's okay. But it's actually a really good adaptation, and I have to give it points for that. This, for people who really like Sonic or who are kids who are looking for a fun action movie, this is, and who know Sonic as a character in the modern day, this is going to be a treat. Like, I gotta make it very clear to you, most franchises don't get this much love when they get adapted. The only things I can think of that have gotten this much love in recent years are Castlevania and Pokemon. Like, this is a rare treat. Which is weird because it still has flaws. But those flaws are not its strengths. Okay, so I'll explain more as I go into this, but the main thing is this does not compromise in its lore. It makes it just as weird and crazy as some of the Archie comic stuff can get, with the chaos being literal wish powers, which is always a little weird part of Sonic lore if you're interested. Yes, they had the people who make Archie comics made Sonic comics. And if you thought the games were weird, whoa boy, you have seen nothing. Jeez, the Archie Sonic comics are just weird. Yeah, if you thought the guy who made the Archie comic series was gonna take it easy on the Sonic comics, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I haven't read them all, no. I've only seen like snippets of them, but jeez, they are crazy even by comic standards. But yeah, this feels like a mixed match of some of those elements and the game. And this does really feel like Sonic 2 and Knuckles, the game, the movie. And it's really cool. Basically, even the parts that they bring back from the first movie, they make very enjoyable and fun. You can tell that the crew for this had a lot of fun with this movie. Everybody's coming into this with their A game, essentially. They're all trying to have the most fun possible, really enjoying themselves. I honestly can't think of an actor. Now, I can't think of a few actors who had, like, bad scenes, but I'll talk about that later in a second. But most of the actors all get, like, their moment to shine. Even, like, the kind of messed up sister got her moment, which was a badass moment. Like, okay, so I'll talk about that later, but the sister of Tom's fiance got a badass moment, which was so cool and I loved it. So, yeah. But, the movie is good. I think it is a good adaptation, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of this. That feels wrong. It feels wrong to say that. Anyway, let's go ahead and go over a basic synopsis of the plot. So, for those of you who didn't watch the first Sonic movie, and to be honest, I can't blame you, it was kind of a snore fest for me. Aside from that one Quicksilver style scene, but that was, a brief blink and you'll miss it kind of thing, honestly. So, Sonic was adopted by an owl lady when he was younger on his home planet, and then he was chased by a bunch of echidnas who, were trying to murder his mentor for unclear reasons, which come up in this movie. So, she sent him to a portal using the rings and gave him the rings and sacrificed himself so he could escape. He's been hanging out in Green Hills, USA. Yeah, the Green Hills joke. We all get it. Green Hills Zone, Stage 1. And he's eventually discovered by the government and moves to leave with his rings, but then Tom, the main human character they had to shove in, treats him with a tranquilizer device so they go on a road trip. That's unimportant. What you need to know is Dr. Robotnik gets sent to a mushroom universe. Sonic is now living on Earth. The government knows about aliens and is scrubbing Robotnik from their records because they don't want to, reveal they let a maniacal madman in charge of countless robot drones wreak havoc over New York. Which is fair. Very fair. Or was it San Francisco? I can't remember. I mean, do I care? Not really. That movie was just kind of boring and dull. Because they didn't really go crazy. It felt like a toned-down, realistic Sonic movie. Yes, it still had a blue hedgehog moving really, really fast, but they had to, constantly break it up with, the road trip and just two guys hanging out. It's like, I mean, can we get to the weirder stuff Sonic is kind of known for, please? But, no, this movie really commits to a lot of that, and I like it. Anyway, after it's all said and done, there's a government agency called GUN, G-U-N. Yes, GUN is their acronym. That actually does have Sonic lore, so you could think they got that from they got that from the games and the comics. You can't blame that on anyone else other than Sega. Sonic is living on Earth, and we saw a post-credit scene where Dr. Robotnik was on a mushroom planet trying to survive and get home, and Tails arrived to tell Sonic something. So, this movie starts up. Dr. Robotnik, finds himself trying to escape from the mushroom planet. He uses one of the quills from Sonic that has a lot of energy stored in it that he got in the first movie to try and send a beacon, essentially, to get people's attention. Because he knew that Sonic was powerful, and so he's hoping if he sent out a powerful enough blast with Sonic's energy signature, he could attract the attention of something that could get him off the planet. It works, and he attracts the attention of Knuckles. Well, first it's three mercenaries who come through and get utterly wrecked. I gotta admit, Jim Carrey stepped up his game on his Eggman performance here. This is some kooky-ass, crazy Eggman, and I love it. Jim Carrey is just a fantastic guy with this. I hear he doesn't really want to come back for any more of these movies, and I'm just, disappointed, because, quite frankly, he was amazing in this. I loved it. He has that zany energy you kind of need for Dr. Robotnik, and I like it. He shows off his intelligence as a character. The writers are very good about showing off that Eggman is actually pretty good at, he's a genius for a reason. So when he's stranded on the mushroom planet, he has all these Ruth Goldberg machines, and he's gone full, I don't have electricity, but I'm working with levers and pulleys kind of survivalist genius. Think Dr. Stone style. That's a deep cut anime reference for anyone who knows it. Not really that deep, honestly. It's a Shonen Jump series, so. But, anyway. He basically plays dead on the ground, sets up loads of booby traps, and takes out all of them. And then Knuckles steps through and he's like, okay, I don't want to fight you, because you only have superpowers. How about this? I'll tell you where the Hedgehog is. You're looking for him, right? So he makes a deal with Knuckles. Knuckles is trying to find the Master Emerald, because that's all Knuckles ever cares about in all Sonic lore, until he becomes BFF with Sonic. And even then, half the time, he still cares mostly about the Master Emerald. So he's looking for it. It was stolen from his people a long time ago, because they were conquerors or whatever. He's the last of his kind. The bird is one of the ancient guardians of the Emerald who stole it from his people. And he wants to find Sonic because he knows he was the owl's apprentice, and the owl gave him something for sending him through the multiverse. So, that's the thing. But, Knuckles is looking for Sonic. Dr. Robotnik and him team up. And Knuckles has this I was raised as a chivalrous knight, but I don't understand your modern sensibilities kind of thing going on with him. We've moved on to characters, in case you didn't know. Dr. Robotnik, like I said, is a joy. He's full of energy. The writers are very good at making him actually appear smart rather than just seeming to know everything. His assistant comes back briefly. That was fun. He's always a joy because he's such a fangirl for Dr. Robotnik. He's like, sir, I've been waiting for you forever. Where have you gone? And you see he's drawing, he has this coffee shop and he drew a detailed picture of Dr. Robotnik in the phone. And then immediately his customer's shaking it, storing in his sugar. He's like, dude, what the fuck? I was waiting on my coffee forever. And he's just my art is not appreciated. He doesn't say it, but the look on his face is my art is not appreciated in this time. It's just oh god, dude. Facial expressions. You could get so much across. Sonic is living with Tom and his fiance as kind of their kid. They've literally just basically adopted him. Which I think that, I actually kind of like we're your parents, don't do anything crazy while you're out, the supervillain shows up. He's been trying to play off as a superhero, but when he goes on the opening scene, he ends up causing way more damage than he solved. And they're like, Sonic, just chill out, learn to control your powers, and wait for somebody who actually needs a superhero and not somebody the cops could deal with. So, Eggman shows up, Knuckles blasts through his door, and they have to find the Master Emerald before the two of them do. Essentially, a Sonic game plot initiates. Tails shows up and tries to warn Sonic because he knew Knuckles was coming after him. He's a little late, but he rescues Sonic and they go off on the adventure together. Tails has the basic, I'm a Sonic fanboy, I've been watching you from a distance for years, I want to be your partner thing that he gets in all the other games. He's also the genius inventor. He's the counter to Eggman, essentially. which is nice. I like it. It's all very good. So, a bit more about my connection. So, personal context for the Sonic games. I'm not really sure you can classify me as a Sonic fan. See, I've never been a huge fan of Sonic as a franchise, but I have liked specific games. Specifically, when I was young, I had a GameCube. That was my, kid console growing up. My console when I was growing up as a kid was a GameCube. And two of my favorite games on there were Sonic Heroes and Sonic Battle Adventures 2. I hadn't played Sonic 1. I hadn't played really any of the other Sonic games, aside from a handful of the ones that got ported as Flash games online. You know, those toned-down Flash games where you only saw, half the screen that you'd see in the full game? Yeah, I played those, and that was basically it. I knew the general gist of the franchise from, essentially, marketing, and, seeing friends of mine talk about it and play it, but I hadn't really gotten in-depth into it in there. First off, if you haven't played, Sonic Battle Adventures 2, go online right now, look up Sonic Escape from the City song, and listen to it. It's very good. That opening song in the sequence when you're skateboarding on a sidewalk on a piece of metal you ripped off a helicopter while a giant tank chases you. Pretty awesome. The opening level to that game hooked me immediately when I played at a friend's house, and when I got a GameCube of my own, I had to buy it. I initially only have Sonic Heroes because I bought that game by mistake, thinking it was Sonic Battle Adventures 2. I'm talking about all this because I don't get a chance to talk about this part of my childhood, and so, hell yes, I'm going to take this opportunity. Anyway, the reason I say this is because they kind of have a moment like this where Sonic's actually skiboarding on a piece of broken metal, and it just brought back adventures of Escape from the City. Do, 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 do. I was just like, oh yeah, my jam is playing in my head in the middle of this movie. Do, 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 do. Rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow right rainbow. Oh, damn, that song is catchy. Sorry, I got caught in it again. But anyway, so that's my experience with the Sonic game franchise. And to me, this was basically a prequel to Sonic Battle Adventures 2, actually. Because, okay, I'll talk about that in the spoiler section, but essentially this is Sonic 2 and Knuckles for the Genesis, which also had the plot of Knuckles gets tricked by Dr. Robotnik into working with him, but eventually realizes that Eggman is evil and starts working with Sonic and Tails. Now, before I go into my final thoughts, I do want to mention this is a kids movie, and I will be judging it as a kids movie, because just for something used for kids does not mean it cannot be good and fun. Killjoys. I enjoy moody and depressing stuff as much as the next person. Trust me, I've played, my favorite Souls series is Soulsborne. That series is all about the crushing misery of our own fragile existence. So, I can enjoy good old, whinge as much as the next person, but I would very much like to, occasionally relax and distract myself from the futility of our own existence. I don't need to constantly be reminded of it. I get it, okay? Sometimes I just want to smile, laugh, and kind of forget about that for a little while. And this movie is very good for that. It has a few jokes that laugh. I actually kind of liked the weird dance-off they had with the Russian guys in the lodge. That was all very weird and crazy, and it felt like the kind of mini-game that we could shoved into a modern Sonic game as some weird side tangent. That's what I mean by this. It feels like a true video game adaptation. It feels like this is a version of Sonic 2 Knuckles that got remade in 3D, like a modern Sonic reboot series. I know, it sounds like a horror story, but trust me, this actually seems like kind of a fun game if you play it. Honestly, they did a video game tie-in for this, and they actually made it a good game. I'd probably play that game, because this is actually a decent base for a video game. I mean, let's see, you got the initial sequence, okay? In the city. You got the initial sequence of the robbers. That's a good opening sequence. You've got Green Hill Zone, so you can play around there as Sonic's running back home. You have, cutscene into the next day after all the parents are gone. You can, bum around the house or have Sonic run all over the place, maybe do some stuff at the park in addition to the stuff he did at the house. You had this fight with Knuckles and Eggman. You have the car chase sequence with Tails. There are enough set pieces in different levels that you could go to, like the Master Emerald. You got that giant maze area we didn't explore enough. There's a lot of stuff you could do with this as a game, and it feels like a game. it literally does feel like somebody tried to actually adapting a video game rather than just taking the beats of a video game, like a video game skin, and draping it over their own plot. That's what it often feels like. So like, I don't want to make a video game movie. I want to make my movie. Well, you have to make this movie. All right, I'll make a Tomb Raider movie. It'll have the general outline, but it'll be mine. It's like, dude, just make the adaptation people actually want from you. Don't even start in like Shyamalan, that fucking Avatar: The Last Airbender. That thing is an abomination. Sorry. Calm. I thought about M. Night Shyamalan in the last Avatar, and I just snapped for a moment. You know Netflix is working on a live-action adaptation. I know. At least you all don't have to watch it, because I'm going to have to review that, because, that is too popular. I can't not review it. Like, it's not even allowed. If you're a reviewer, you're essentially going to be forced to watch at least the first season of that before you write it off. I am not looking forward to it. Sorry. But, yeah. So, I'm going to have two different scores for this. I know. As a normal movie, I would rate this a 7 out of 10. You know what? I'll give it a 7.5. I'll give it a 7.5. It's a fun kids movie. Not a lot of substance to it, but it's good. It's well put together, well made. The action scenes are interesting and inventive. They try to subvert a lot of modern cliches. It's just a fun movie. I like it. But there's not a lot of substance to it. It's not, like, heavily unique or anything. If I was on a good day, I might give it an 8. So that's why I'm giving it a 7.5. On some days I'd say a 7, some days I'd say an 8, so I'm going to give it a 7.5. As an adaptation, though, I'd give this like a 9.5 out of 10. And you will see why in a second. And depending on how I look at it, maybe a 10 out of 10. I think this is the closest video games have come outside of like Pokemon and maybe Castlevania, although that's actually very different from the games itself. It's just a very good adaptation of the lore of the world. I would say this is like a 10 out of 10 adaptation. This is how people should be adapting video game movies. I know some of you want this gritty reboot of everything. Whatever, but like, if the property is this silly and ridiculous, this is how you should do it. Go full on crazy, give me the giant robots and the world warping powers and the talking echidnas. Give me the crazy owl people who battled an echidna army for a giant glowing rock. Give me all of it. Give me the insanity. I hope they do the giant immortal floating evil space cannon lizard thing in the next one. That's gonna be cool. If they do it. I hope they do it, because I'm actually looking forward to a Sonic 3 after this. I thought this was going to be a miserable experience. It was a fun movie and a good adaptation. Yes, any movie studio is about to adapt a video game movie. This should be an example of how to do fun, crazy out there premises well. Because it's not a work of art or anything. But I think most video game adaptations, especially from the early days of video games, like 2D, low story video games, this is what you're looking for. If the Mario movie is anything of this level, they're willing to go full on crazy to embrace what makes the franchise fun and interesting and unique. You're gonna get a good response. And that's why I think this deserves a special adaptation grade. If you're coming here looking for an adaptation of Sonic 2 and Knuckles, that has to drag the ball and chain of the previous movie around because they fucked up that one. This is as good as you are going to get. That might be a qualified statement, but I think it is still a mark of praise that studios, after like 30 years, have finally figured out how to do video game movies well. And I look forward to seeing what new video game movies will come out in the future? That feels weird to say. So moving on from all that, let's get into spoilers and have some fun, everybody. I've got actually a lot to talk about here. So we're going to have to move this along because I'm already 24 minutes in. I've been talking about this like nonstop. Okay, so where to start? Okay, let's just start from the very beginning. We got Roger Robotnik and Knuckles. They come for the Emerald. Tom and his fiance are out at her fiance's sister's wedding. She's getting married to this, giant, I'm like the perfect guy compared to Tom, who's like the kind of wimpy guy. And there are all these little signs, like all the groom's friends are all like these super buff, like soldier kind of guys. Like, yeah, man, they're my squad. It's like, okay, so he was some kind of army guy or whatever. That's interesting. That's interesting. But it's actually not a throwaway detail because so basically what happens is Sonic and Tails figure out about, Sonic's mom because she had left like a hologram message inside the map she gave Sonic. So when he found out about the emerald. Okay, first of all, I gotta bitch about this. There's no explanation for that. Sonic is just like, oh yeah, there's this emerald in here. He just touches the map. No other part of the map reacts when he touches it, and he's probably touched that emerald several times trying to figure out what it means. But when he touches it this time, the whole thing glows, and the owl appears in this weird hologram, and it's like, Sonic, you have finally determined about the emerald and what it means. And I'm like, how the fuck did you rig this? I want to know what conditions you set for that to go. Did you have to say, that looks like an emerald, and touch it? Like, were those the conditions? I'm very confused here. So yeah, Sonic and his fanboy Tails, who's growing into a hero of his own, because that's part of his thing, and he wants to help Sonic. And they're gonna go off and find the Master Emerald for, Knuckles and Eggman do. Eggman's actually been tracking his phone signals while he's texting Tom saying, oh yeah, everything's fine. And Knuckles is like, he says he's at home. We must go home. It's like, no. You don't understand. This is technology. So, it looks like my satellites had pinged him in Siberia. That's weird. They go to this Siberian lodge, and after they're discovered to be, a talking fox with two tails and a big old blue hedgehog, they're going to get nearly thrown in the fire because Russians, I guess. Crazy Russian bar or whatever. And they're taking shelter there because of the storm in the mountains, and they teleport straight to the mountain using the rings, and Sonic doesn't want to go back. Anyway, Tails' device got them into this trouble because it keeps malfunctioning. It's supposed to be a translator, and after the first thing where she's like, I'll take a beef stew, and it doesn't show us what it says, but they give her like a stew of tongue. And then it starts insulting everyone, and they're revealed. And Tails is like, whatever. It's like starts chanting like something in Russian. It's like, what did you just say? It's like, it's a contest of some sorts I'd observed in humans of this, culture. According to my data, anyway. If we win, we get to go free. And you think in this giant muscle dude steps forward, you're like, oh, so Sonic's gonna have to fight him. And then he starts dancing. It's like, oh, it's a dance-off. Okay, let's just go full crazy. Let's embrace the crazy. So Sonic and Tails have like a big dance-off with the guy, and Tails uses his holograms for great backup dancers. It's all hilarious. I love it. Especially when Sonic changes the music, it's just like, oh gods. I did cringe a bit when I saw them flossing, but like, that's gonna happen. Also, Eggman flosses multiple times, because apparently adults haven't realized it's slightly cringy when they do it. Is that just me? I do want to know if it's just me. Does anyone else cringe when they see actual adults flossing, like people over the age of 30, or is it just me? I don't know why. It's just always been like that for me. Anyhow, moving on from that, Tails and Sonic go to the temple. They get in pretty easily and find the compass, but obviously Eggman and Knuckles have been following them, waiting for them to get it, and there's a big fight. They lose the compass, and Tails gets hurt. Knuckles and Sonic have a big fight up there, trying to get the compass back. And they have this moment where Knuckles explains his backstory, and this is where I'm gonna stop real quick. So, there's something I hadn't mentioned in the actual part of the review that I kind of forgot, but I also kind of wanted to leave for the spoilers. And it's that I like the dialogue in this movie, but there's this weird tonal shift that occurs like 4 times in the movie, okay? When Tails explains his backstory, when Knuckles explains his backstory, when the fiance's sister confronts her groom, and then like right at the end, when they're doing the big hug speech, and it's like the big, we have to shove the lesson in here moment, or we're talking about our backstory, and all the characters' dialogue suddenly feels very wooden and unnatural, like they don't have the same energy they did before, and they kind of rush it off, like sounds like, yeah, I was always alone as a kid, and I always watched you from a distance, and when I saw that you were in danger, I had to come help you, so that's why I'm here. Thanks, Sonic. Bye. Like, it literally is that abrupt. It feels sudden, and like, we had to shove this in somewhere, and we didn't really care where it hit. And I normally would think that is a flaw, but also, anyone who's coming here as a fan already knows these characters. And if you're trying to just spout out the exposition for non-fans, I mean, who cares? You know, like, they're just gonna get the information and go back to the movie. Okay, fine, got it out of the way quickly. But it also reminded me of something, and I could not stop this nagging thought in my head as I watched this movie. Are they trying to replicate the, like, dialogue boxes of old stuff where it's like, so a lot of times backstory in old games, you wouldn't get in the actual game itself. You would have, like, a physical manual that'd come with it. I know, a foreign concept in the age of digital games. But you would have, like, backstory, not just, like, game controls and stuff like that, but actual backstory in the book. So, like, in the original, like, Legend of Zelda for the NES, you'd have a little booklet describing Zelda and Link and Ganon, and describing the concepts, because adding this as text in the game would have eaten up more memory, and that would mean, like, cutting a level or two, which the developers weren't willing to do. So older games would shove a lot of the plot, or a lot of the exposition at least, into the booklets. And it makes me think, is this trying to replicate the feeling of that? Because it's a very dry tone. Or are they trying to replicate the way, like, text would just scroll a bunch of details on the screen and just shove you into the level? Like, it almost feels like they're replicating the video game style experience of, yeah, here's why this is happening. Now, can we get back to the crazy thing that's going on? Because, look, I love video games. I think they're interesting ways of telling modern narratives. But in the age where Sonic originated, video games were primarily a gameplay experience. Not as many games try to give you a good story experience. I'm not, now, before every other gamer out there crucifies me, I'm not saying there weren't good stories in games. RPGs in particular did tend to have a slightly better and more present story than most other types of games out there. But platformers or action games like Sonic didn't really, action games or platformers like Sonic didn't really have great narratives. And I know some of you are very invested in Sonic lore. Let's be honest with ourselves. Most of the actual lore was created after the fact to sell comics and merchandise and TV shows. It's okay to admit that. It does not make a show lesser. But it does mean the era where this comes from is a bit narratively lighter. I think that's why they're moving on to the shadow stuff after the fact. And I will get to that. But I'm not really sure I can bring it down too much on the movie, because it feels like the writers really didn't want to deal with all the backstory, but they kind of felt they had to explain why Tails was there, and just like, yeah, I'm here for this, blah, blah, blah. Alright, can we back to our adventure, Sonic? And they do it with Knuckles, too. It feels a little less like that for him, because he has this, like, because after he's done explaining, he has this moment of, I lost everything that day. That was the last time I ever saw them. And that felt resonant. Like, it literally does feel like he was just listing stuff off, and then he suddenly became very melancholic and feeling in his acting. Like, the voice actor actually started caring all of a sudden again. And Sonic has this moment where he flashes back to his, adopted parent getting murdered by the echidnas in their apparently suicidal battle with each other. And he's like, we both did. And there's this moment of Knuckles being like, just pausing and just being like, am I just perpetuating the cycle of violence that has already taken everything from both of us? And then Tails throws like a stun, a stun bola at him. Bola is one of those things where it has two weights on each end and it wraps around you. And Knuckles is like, how dare you, you treacherous creature! And he's like, oh yeah, because he feels like he's being emotionally manipulated to pause and, just so Tails can sneak up on him. And Sonic's like, no, I didn't see Tails there. I was genuinely having an emotional connection with you. Can we go back to that real quick? I would just like to talk to you. And, okay, you're not talking anymore. Got it, bye. And it's just that moment of, wow, they ruminated on the cycle of violence and how it has affected both these characters' lives and how they should probably move past it in, like, a brief little scene. And they didn't really feel the need to, like, explain it. Because a lot of kids' movies have this really bad habit, like, I think I like to call it the Naruto effect, where they can't just say something, that has implications. They have to say something that has implications, explain the basic overview of those implications, and then restate it multiple times so that so everybody knows that you're talking about a cycle of violence. And like, they can have deep things, but they hammer it so hard over their head, like they're afraid the audience is gonna forget about it. Now, to be fair for the Naruto, that's because, the adaptation was based on manga, and Manga chapters are pretty short, and it's like comics where they're constantly worried you're going to forget what happened in the previous issue, or maybe you didn't read the previous issue. So they need to constantly remind you of everything, so they have lots of flashbacks and that nonsense. That's where all that comes from, by the way, in comics and manga. Because they're afraid that you won't have read the previous issues. So, yeah. I do think it is interesting that this movie was willing to just let that be stated, kind of an understated theme. And not ever, like, they don't ever say, we should put aside our violence and stuff like that. It's more of like, they come to work together and understand each other. But they never outright say, it's like, I will finally put aside the violence of our ancestors and we will be united together as guardians. And it's like, they don't really say it like that. And I don't know, it makes the point feel more earned that they get to it without having to spell it out to the audience. They trust the audience enough to understand the subtle themes that weave into the movie. And these aren't deep themes. Like, the idea of maybe more bloodshed isn't what you need is the whole, an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind. Like, it's a pretty basic theme you see in a lot of kids' shows. But the fact they didn't drive it home so hard was very nice. Anyway, moving on from that, they have the Avalanche scene, where there was this stupid joke, and it just shows that Tom is, like, completely incompetent. But he basically, one of his fiance's nieces, was gonna be the ring bearer for her sister's wedding, and Tom did a little thing where he picked up one of the rings and did the whole quarter trip, and he's like, is there supposed to be only one ring there? It's like, the girl's like panicking, and she's like, oh wait, I think I see it behind your ear, and it turns out the one he gave her was the ring Sonic gave him. It's like, dude, you couldn't just keep it in your hand while you did the trick? Like, how did you mix it up for Sonic's ring? So he has to interrupt the wedding to throw the ring for Sonic. An avalanche got triggered after Knuckles and Eggman stole the compass thing they found in the temple from them, and Tails got hurt, so Sonic had to like ride away from the avalanche. Meanwhile, Knuckles is being like, he left the compass to us to protect his friends. How very noble. Even if he is villainous scum who served those owls, he is truly a warrior worthy of respect, even without his training. And it's like, and it was like, yeah, but he left the compass for us. Suckers! Honestly, Eggman and Knuckles have actually a pretty interesting dynamic, because Knuckles is like the honorable, dumb warrior. And when I mean dumb, I mean like thick dumb. Like, this is some himbo level dumb here. Meanwhile, Eggman is a genius, but like completely morally devoid of any sympathy at all. I'm not sure it's the best judge of my character that I was mostly being like, yeah, but they left the compass. It's like, yeah, that's how I'd probably react to this. Suckers. Probably doesn't say a lot of good things about me that was related to Eggman half the time. I mean, he got unlimited power. I'd be like, yeah, if I was in that position, I'd probably do the same thing. What? It's unlimited power. Come on, man. You can't tell me you wouldn't choose unlimited power occasionally. So what if it makes me the villain? I mean, aside from the fact that karmatically the villain always gets what's coming to him in the story. Unless you're reading fanfiction, in which case occasionally the villain gets to win because people like depressing things. They like thinking about the depressing what if of existence. No, bad days. Don't go to bad thoughts. This is fun. Anyway. So, yeah. There's this scene where the bridesman throws the ring, interrupts the wedding with a giant avalanche pouring through. And the bride is all very upset and everything. It's like, how dare you ruin and then the entire reception. And I mean, the whole reception. So it's very clear that her sister and her sister's boyfriend, who, the boyfriend she hates, by the way, like, the groom is even, like, at the beginning of the wedding when they first see them while Sonic's doing, like, they briefly cut to the groom, to Tom and his fiancée occasionally, and the, groom is, like, even like, dude, she hates you. Like, she's acting nice right now, because she's trying to be polite in public, but whenever we're alone, she bitches about you like you would not believe. Like, you have a lot of work to do, if you want to make it up to her. And she's even like, and then she's always like, oh, Tom, while she's in public, the second she goes to walk up to Tom right after that, she's like, hey, Tom, I'd very much like to put the hatchet behind us. And he's like, oh, really? I would have loved that. I would be so happy to do that. Cause they had a big falling out or whatever in the first movie. And, then she pulls him for a hug. She's like, all right, but if you fuck up my wedding, I will murder you. So she's getting ready to murder him like she promised, but it turns out literally everyone pulls a gun out and points it at Sonic because they're part of, GUN, gun. The organization is supposed to detect extraterrestrial threats, so they're after Sonic. And, okay, a moment to talk about the gun organization. It's weird to see a government, peacekeeping force that the heroes are at odds with I feel like is still competent, even when, the normal human characters had to break out the superpower people. I still feel like, for the most part, they are competent and good at their jobs, which is weird to say out loud, because they usually make these guys really, really incompetent and really, really stupid. There's the guy from the Olive Garden in the last movie, who turns out to be, the head of gun, and he's, and they're like, General, please, you don't understand. Dr. Robotnik is back. We need Sonic to defeat him. And the general is immediately like, what? Wait. Robotnik is back? That madman nearly destroyed a city. Holy shit. Units be on alert. Robotnik may be back in play. Please recover any relevant files. And I want an ATB. I want his location immediately. He's after some dangerous weapon. We need to stop him. Alright, my people are gonna handle that. Now I need to deal with the alien you've been harboring. Sorry, sir. This is actual government business. We do think he's a threat. You need to step aside or you will be aiding and abetting. I'm like, it's really weird that they're competent like that. The normal thing would be they don't believe the heroes, that they need the, they don't, they want to lock the hero up and they don't believe the hero's friend that he's needed to stop the actual villain. That villain can't possibly exist or they're not dangerous. But the moment they tell him Robotnik's back, it's well, they wouldn't lie about this. Robotnik, that does explain a lot of things. Meanwhile, the bride, the sister of the fiance is freaking out. She's like, no, it was all a lie. And they mentioned, and when the general steps out, he's like, good work, soldier. Operation Catfish was a success. It's just the bride's like, Operation Catfish. And the groom is meanwhile trying to be like, baby, it's not what you think. You're like, is everyone a secret agent? And then she turns to the priest, are you a secret agent? And the priest just kind of sulks a little bit. And he's like, looking out to the side of shade, all the people are shuffling their feet, please don't look at me, please don't look at me. And the priest opens his Bible and reveals that there's a hidden slot for a gun in it. And she's just like, motherfucker, was everyone at this hotel? And when you go back to the hotel, you see half the guests are now wearing body armor and have weapons and are patrolling to watch out before they transport Sonic back to their headquarters. And it's just this moment of, wow, her entire wedding was made up of her sister, her sister's boyfriend, and a bunch of people who were only here because they wanted to catch the annoying blue hedgehog her sister and her husband and her fiance had adopted as their kid. And it's just hilarious. I love it so much. It's one of those ridiculous things you would see in games. And it's just and she gets pissed. Especially after it was called Operation Catfish. And it's just oh, that is, ooh. She gets one of the coolest scenes as a result. So she doesn't care about Sonic, but she's so pissed she wants to punch her groom in the face. So she helps her sister break into the hotel and they have Tails' backpack and they find his gadgets. One of them is one of the bounce pads and it sends this one guy rocking into the sky. And they're like, he's gonna come back down eventually, right? It's don't know. We have to rescue Sonic. Eventually he falls down over on the right way reception, dozens of feet away, but since it was a bounce pad, I guess he's not hurt by fall damage. Still a little sore, but not broken bones. Magic tech. Gotta love it. Anyway, the sister ends up using this boomerang to save the fiance. I forget what her name is off the top of my head. I'm just calling her the fiance because she's Tom's fiance. I genuinely don't remember her name, and I wish I did because she's, I'm gonna look up her name real quick. 1 second. Okay, it was Maddie Witkowski, and I think they're married now, actually. Maybe they're not fiance? I don't know. Anyhow, before I got trapped. So Maddie, goes to rescue Sonic and Tails. Meanwhile, her sister literally just takes a bunch of Tails' weapons to go hunt down her fiance. And she has this badass moment where after she helps, Maddie break into the facility, you cut to the fiance, her husband to be and the general guy, and they're just talking. It's like, I feel a little guilty about all this. It's like, oh, don't be. You did a great job, son. It's like, sir, we're under attack. And it's like, by what? A golf cart comes streaming in, nearly running over some guys, bursting out, and they're just looking at it. It's like, hey, honey, guess what? I'm back. And she's gone like full insane Bridezilla mode. And so she does one of the coolest things I've ever seen somebody do with a golf cart. She rams it into the big wedding, photo gazebo area, and does the little twist turn step out as it's like, she turns it, skidding on its side, and as it crashes into the stage, she steps out, wine bottle in her hand, she chunks it, and it's basically just like the stereotypical, overly regular bride thing combined with a scene from Fast and the Furious as the cart slams into a bunch of electronics and the whole thing explodes behind her. She walks away, not looking back, still chugging a wine bottle. And then she proceeds to, and then another guy, the general pulls out a taser gun, and the husband to be is like, no, and jumps from it. He starts spasming. It's like the fakest spasm ever. And obviously the sister pulls out a gun, it's like a toy gun, cause it's made for someone half her size and alien looking, so it's not looks like a real guy. He's like, the general's like, what are you gonna do with that? And she's like, I don't know. I have no idea what the thing does. Points at a cake and blasts it into pieces. And the general's like, okay, surrender. Like, I don't want that thing aimed at me. I've already fired my only shot of my taser round. I'm done. Surrender. I'm not gonna fight you. You can hash this out between you two. Meanwhile, the husband is like, baby, how bad is it? It's like, dude, you just got tased a little bit. Get up. I actually kinda liked how, the super buff secret agent is acting like a wuss after just getting tased one time. Meanwhile, Maddie is the person who's been like, I swear if you screw this up and make my life abnormal again, I will end you, Tom. It's just like, oh, I just ran a golf cart through this and walked away silently chugging a wine bottle with an alien weapon in my hand as a golf cart exploded in the stage behind me like an action movie star. And you're whining about a little tasing? Get up, boy. And they have this very stilted, one of the 4 scenes I'm just like, where they talk like, oh baby, I love you. Oh baby, I still love you too. And they kiss and it's like, okay, fine, moving on now. Yeah, but holy shit, that whole scene with Maddie's sister is just awesome. It's one of the most ridiculous things I have seen in the movies for a while. This movie is a ride. After that, Eggman and Robotnik have found the Master Emerald. It's actually kind of reversal on the whole. The heroes get to the, secret labyrinth first, but the villains arrive just as they're about to get there and they get a hold of the emerald first. Because, Knuckles and Eggman actually find their way through the labyrinth slowly, working with both Knuckles' brawn and Eggman's intellect in order to get through it without dying, because it's booby traps every 7 seconds. Oops. Sorry, that went on with a little more. It looks like it's every 5 to 7 seconds. And meanwhile, Sonic just runs through the whole thing because he's super fast. But, as they arrive, Sonic crashes down to the ceiling. And it's just it feels like the reversal of how the villain and hero usually get there. So it feels refreshing, even if it's not really. Part of me actually wonder, because you can actually see the whole labyrinth as the maze on top. And it's always made me wonder, why don't people just get on top of the maze and run over all the traps? You could literally just climb up on the walls and start running around the maze just over the walls. Heck, you could even just run around the walls to get to the end, or run over the walls to get straight to the center. Has anyone ever tried that? Hey, movie directors, try that as an interesting solution, or a subversion of the labyrinth hiding the great treasure thing. I'd love to see it. And I would like to see this. I don't want to just see, oh, there's an evil shadow monster that kills you if you try and get on top of the maze. Yu-Gi-Oh! I would actually like to see you utilize this, not just explain why it doesn't exist. See, when we tell you interesting ways that characters could have done stuff, we usually want the characters to try doing it that way, not just listen to you explain reasons why it can't happen. Sorry. Had to complain about that, but, it is just one of those things I noticed. It's Sonic could probably just run over that. Anyway, obviously Eggman betrays, Knuckles. And again, in in celebration of the characters in this movie not being complete morons, like, beyond the point it seems reasonable, Knuckles, originally, Sonic's like, oh no, Eggman's trying to go for the emeralds. Like, no, you're trying to deceive me. It's like, no, I'm serious, look. And then Knuckles immediately, and when Sonic's like, no, I'm serious, he's evil, look, see? Knuckles immediately turns around, is like, oh, he is evil. Shit. Eggman! We will stop you! It's like, you do not get to betray me! I thought you were my friend! It's like, oh, it's refreshing to see a character who isn't so stupid that they'll ignore a warning coming from a pleading character until it's too late. Like, they actually do try and stop him, and he listens to Sonic with barely any preempting, considering the last time they talked, he thought Sonic, took advantage of his emotions to literally pull a trick like that on him. It's actually impressive that he turned to look. It shows that he was a little nervous about Eggman from the very beginning. I like that. I like when characters aren't stupid to the point where it stops making sense in the story. I know that's low praise to get, but you would not believe how many movies nowadays I go back and look at them like, these characters don't even make sense. Like, these actions, this level of distrust is actively detrimental to their well-being. And that's not even the point of their character. It's just like them being stupid so the plot can happen. The plot happens in this movie in despite of the characters acting appropriately for the most part, which is actually a refreshing change. Honestly. And then we have the only time in Sonic fandom where Eggman has ever been taken seriously. He gets the Master Emerald and teleports away with his power. He appears at his henchman's place where the henchman's been captured by a cop and is basically teleporting all over the place, a glowing synth voice. He plays around with it a bit and there's a bit of jokes with it. But he is honestly menacing like this. Like, he's shooting out green lightning everywhere, teleporting randomly, like, oh, look at this over here, a little amoeba playing games. Get in the chair, insect. And the cop who's just watched him effortlessly teleport behind him and, in a place where he could very easily probably just snap his neck with a snap of his fingers, decides, yes, sir, I'll get in the chair. Because that's what you do when you see someone with essentially godlike power. And of course, Eggman is over the top and ridiculous, so when the army shows up literally immediately, because they got the word from, Tom that Eggman was back and immediately started mobilizing to hunt him down, like, competent soldiers. When the understanding of a very dangerous terrorist is around, they basically just were like, yeah, we knew his sidekick was working here, so we assumed that he popped up here. He's in there with a hostage, sir. We have the building surrounded by like a ton of tanks. He's not getting out of there with just those robots. We will take him down this time. It's like, oh wow, they're taking him very seriously, and they've arrived very quickly. So kudos to them. Kudos to the army for being actually competent in an animated movie for once. Very strange, honestly. They're usually not that competent. But, yeah. So, moving on from there, Eggman, of course, is not the kind of person who's going to use his new reality warping powers to just, kill them all. He has to do it in a really flamboyant, over-the-top way that involves robots, because this is Dr. Robotnik. And if he got ultimate power, he would definitely use it to just turn animals into robots. That's his thing. Robots are his thing. So he literally disassembles all the tanks and machinery in the area in order to create a giant egg robot to take over the world in. And it's just this moment of, yeah, he probably could kill them all, but he's Dr. Robotnik. And if Dr. Robotnik always did the most efficient thing, Sonic would have been dead a long time ago. So it seems to me like his mental state definitely fits with this. And then you have this big old final battle. Not really much to say there. There are some very interesting battle scenes. I like it all. At the end, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails form a final team. So you got the, Sonic trio going. Maybe Amy will pop out in a future movie. I hope not. She's kind of annoying. She's basically a yandere fangirl, as a Sonic character. Like, that's basically her thing. But, and then, let's see what else. Oh yeah, Tom and Maddie adopt the two of them, so that's nice. Moving on from that, you've got the government who are like, sir, while we were scrubbing Robotnik's, from the servers to try and cover up that whole thing that happened a few months ago, we actually been alerted, we found something, and our men have been looking into it. Something called Project Shadow. And you see this, ancient, stasis tube rise out of the ground where you see Shadow the Hedgehog. And that means that we're basically going to be moving into an adaptation of Sonic Battle Adventures 2. And I am all on board for that because that game was my jam as a kid and it gets over the top and ridiculous. If you thought this movie was crazy, if they actually try and adapt Sonic Battle Adventures 2 into a movie, we're going to get to see a giant immortal space lizard. That's going to be fun. Please. Okay. Paramount. I have a request for you. Be even crazier in Sonic 3. Do it. Give us the laser-eyed, giant, immortal space lizard. Give us the Death Star stuff. Give us the government conspiracy nonsense. Give us all of it. Make this movie as crazy as it can be. And I will love you for it. Seriously, if you actually go through with some of the insane shit that happens in Sonic Battle Adventures 3 as a movie, I might actually think that's an amazing movie. Like, that wouldn't even just be like me being like, oh, it's a good adaptation. No, that would just be an awesome movie. Oh, God. I'm just imagining them adapting that plot. It's just like, oh, that's gonna get insane quickly. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to Sonic 3. This movie has restored my faith in Sonic as a film franchise. So yeah, I've been talking for almost an hour. Thank you for listening this long. I'm currently going to be doing a few new things coming this week. I don't really have any major review plans right now. I'll probably be releasing that on Monday, my big review schedule, so I'll figure out what I'm doing over the weekend. Starting on Tuesday, I'm going to actually be doing my stream of The Cruel King and the Great Hero. It is a turn-based RPG that has an interesting plot. It's basically, what if the dark, evil dragon raised the hero who would one day defeat him? And it's adorable and cute and has that whole, the evil villain raises an innocent child thing that for some reason I have always liked. I think it's the dispassionate negativity of the villain towards every other thing aside from their little bundle of joy, which they coo over like an obsessive parent. And they go from like, oh, my adorable little one to, now, send the Dark Legions out so my little one can get his flowers. And it's just like that mixture of like, hover parent with, I am the Dark Lord. That's always been, like, super adorable to me. I've always been a fan of, like, fanfictions where Kurama rages Naruto early or something like that. Because it's just, like, I've always loved that weird dichotomy you get from the situation. So I'm very much looking forward to The Cruel King and the Great Hero. I played a little bit of it to get used to the game, but I was like, I'm not gonna play as much as this on Switch. I think I'll just play it at home as a stream. And yeah, so go ahead and check me out for that. See you guys next time. Bye! I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to The Dragon's Library. Please, subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.